This tutorial will look at correct wingfoil stance and stance mistakes in detail. Your basic foot placement should look roughly like this. It's something like a snowboard or surf stance, but with your hips turned slightly towards the nose of the board for comfort and to help you face forward. Importantly, both feet should be touching the center line or stringer of the board to retain full foiling control. Your back foot can be slightly more towards toe side and turned around 80 or 90 degrees off the center line. Your front foot can be slightly more towards heel side and turned about 50 to 60 degrees from the center line. You can adjust from this slightly, of course, for personal preference, but if your stance is way off of this, then you're probably going to limit your progress at some point. How far forwards or backwards you position your feet is a key question. That's covered in greater detail in the mast and foot placement video linked below. But basically, if you've got it about right, then when foiling at your cruising speed or average speed, you should have equal weight on each leg. That's good for fatigue and means you're free to shift forward to limit lift or shift back to increase lift. If your stance was way too far forward, for example, you'd find you're very back foot heavy while foiling, which can limit control and wear out your back leg. Or if your stance was too far backwards, you'll be very front foot heavy while foiling at a medium speed. This can be risky, as it's then likely that the foil shoots up and hits you, either when you speed up or make a mistake. If you're a beginner or in any doubt, it's safest to start with your stance slightly forward at first, to prevent the foil flying up easily. You can always inch backwards gradually and discover your balance point where you can foil with even foot pressure. In terms of stance width, I'd recommend a comfortable shoulder width stance. This will allow a good range of forwards-backwards weight shifting to control pitch and height. A wider stance allows more forwards-backwards weight shifting, of course, for greater pitch control. This can be useful for racing or wave riding, but it will cause fatigue and you might find the board overly pitch sensitive if you're a beginner. A narrower stance can be more comfortable and better for fatigue or long journeys, but may limit your pitch control, especially if you're not standing exactly on the balance point. So this is not the best idea for beginners. So why do I recommend this foot placement? Let's look at the perimeter of this foot placement. That shows where you can easily shift your weight around unless you're balancing against the force of the wing. Because this stance encompasses the balance point nicely, you have a wide range of control. You can weight shift forwards to descend and backwards to ascend. While leaning or rolling towards toe side, you can still weight shift forwards and backwards. Or, when leaning further towards heel side, you can still weight shift forwards and backwards. That means you have full foil control. You can manage height effectively, whether riding heel side or toe side. For example, even if leaning harder towards heel side to go further upwind, you can still control your pitch and your height perfectly. Or, if leaning towards toe side, perhaps to jibe to toe side, you can keep perfect height and pitch control throughout and not jump all over the place. There are certain wingfoil stances, however, that can work and get you foiling, but prevent this full range of control. Let's look at a more forwards-facing stance or diagonal stance with feet placed far off the center line. I see plenty of people riding like this, as you can get away with it to some extent, but you'll notice that when someone uses this stance they tend to wobble a lot. Let's explore why with this example kindly shared by Angelico. You see here, for example, he's foiling low to the water and needs to climb a bit. So he shifts some weight onto the back foot. This will make him climb, but because his back foot is so far on the toe side of the board, Back foot pressure will also roll the board towards toe side. A moment later he's foiling too high and at risk of breaching the foil, so he shifts weight onto the front foot to descend. However, because his front foot is off the centre line towards the heel side of the board, front foot pressure will make the board roll back towards heel side. This is why he ends up with such a wobbly ride. It's very impressive and only due to his quick reflexes that he's getting away with his feet being so far off the centre line. Whenever I see someone with this stance, they tend to wobble a lot more and especially struggle with jibes, tacks or anything more complicated. I quite often see stances that are shifted towards heel side like this. This is particularly common with windsurfers, for example. You can sometimes get away with this heel side offset while riding in heel side with the wing well powered, since the hand wing pulls you towards toe side for balance. But when the wind lulls or you need to depower your hand wing, you then drop back towards heel side. Even a less pronounced heel side offset like this can make the basic heel to toe jibe difficult. Instead of turning fully to complete the jibe like this, your jibe will tend to be much wider, then you head downwind for too long and lose your apparent wind. Or you'll start the jibe to toe side, but when distracted you roll back towards heel side like this. Foot straps can often cause this problem. If they're too small or too tight, your feet will be shifted towards heel side. Make sure that your straps are loose enough that your feet can easily reach the center line without getting jammed in the straps. Thanks for watching, and I hope this helps you improve your Wingfoil stance.